Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.
Sitting on 4 degrees outside our studios here in the centre of Bathurst, you're listening to Breakfast. Liam O'Connell in for Pecky this morning. It's time to welcome the Mayor of Dubbo, Matthew Dickerson. Good morning.
Good morning, Liam. Great to be chatting to you. Thanks for having me on.
Good to have you on. At your council meeting last week, some voting regarding the voice referendum to Parliament. What's happened here?
Well, this is a really interesting one. As you would well know, there's been a whole range of different positions taken by councils across the nation and, in fact, by various organisations across the nation. We have been discussing this for some time and we wanted to make sure we got it right. So we resolved on Thursday night not to take a position in terms of a yes vote or a no vote. The general discussion was that we thought in an open democratic society, when you've got a referendum where people walk in and put a yes or a no, depending on what their opinion is, we didn't think it was right that our council told people how to vote. But we thought the education and making sure people understand is incredibly important. So we resolved to hold a panel, a forum if you like. We'll have a 4-person panel. We'll put out expressions of interest from that and get 2 people that are going to vote in favour of a yes vote, 2 people who will speak in favour of a no vote. We'll hire a professional MC/adjudicator. We'll hold that at our theatre. It'll be a public event. We'll live stream it. And we really focus on the fact that this is an important vote. Whichever way your opinion is, it's an important vote. So we want to make sure the correct education gets out there. And then we'll also help the Australian Electoral Commission in getting to the point where people are registered to vote and make sure they're aware of it. The real frustration, Liam, here is we still don't know the date. And there's rumours around that this Wednesday the date will be announced, and that date will be the 14th of October, which doesn't give long for people to focus on a date and long for people to get registered to vote. So that has been a real frustration. Getting a date has been an important part of this process.
Also on Thursday night, some decisions made around commemorations for Australia Day next year. What's happened here?
Well, it caused a bit of controversy in 2023 at the Australia Day ceremonies we had, because we have 2 in our LGA. We've got Wellington and Dubbo. At the end of last year, we as a council wanted to go to the process of having both ceremonies the night before. So not changing the date, Liam, don't get too scared. We don't want to change the date. 26th of January is the date still. But we thought having the ceremonies the night before would do a couple of things: make it more convenient for people to enjoy Australia Day, and really focus on the fact that Aboriginal people in our community see it as Survival Day. We were snookered, though, by the Australian Citizenship Ceremonies Code. We couldn't actually hold the Australia Day event in Dubbo on the evening before because we have more than 20 new citizens go through citizenship ceremonies each year. In Wellington, it was less than 20, so we could. Now, they've changed the Citizenship Ceremonies Code, which is fantastic news, which means we could have held both in 2024 the night before, or in fact, 3 days, up to 3 days before, or 3 days after the 26th. In the end, fair bit of debate, bit of back and forth. We have decided to do the same as we did this year. In Wellington, have a twilight event at 6:30 p.m, and then in Dubbo, have it as a morning event on the 26th of January.
Now, Matt Dickerson, you've also been meeting with the Commonwealth Bank. It's following bank closures in your part of the world. What kind of assurances were you able to get out of them?
Well, it was quite a good meeting, actually, I thought. The NAB recently closed in Wellington, and as you can expect, I sent off a letter to the CEO of the NAB and said, please don't close this particular branch. And I gave some logical reasons that even though their foot traffic might not be as high as they would like it to be, we've got a fair bit of economic activity that's going to happen around Wellington, in particular with the renewable energy zone. So I did point all that out to the NAB. I got the letter that I kind of expected to get back, which was, we're a business, we've got to make sure our branches are viable. Unfortunately, it doesn't stack up. Thank you for your letter, have a nice day, but we're going to close the branch anyway. The only major bank left in Wellington now is the Commonwealth Bank. And so I was keen to meet with them just to see where they're at. Now, they did make an announcement back in July that they're putting a moratorium on any branch closures until the end of 2026. So that sounds good, but I wanted to just be reassured that that definitely included Wellington, and just to really, again, point out the importance of a bank in a community like Wellington, and also that huge economic activity that we've got coming up. So I met with the Commonwealth Bank. They did assure me that, yes, they won't be closing that branch or any other branch across the nation, until at least the end of 2026. So it's not saying they're going to close them at the end of that year, but just saying that they're not going to close them until that point. Then they'll reassess it again. So at least that gives people in Wellington some sort of assurance. And the other thing that's important is there's only one ATM. There's some little kiosk ATMs, but only one major ATM in Wellington, and that is at the Commonwealth Bank branch. So if the branch closed, I'm not sure what would happen to that ATM. So we'll keep talking to other banking providers. We want to make sure we've got good banking services in Wellington, but there's a nice assurance from the Commonwealth Bank.
I mean, it's not as if, Wellington's a tiny town. I mean, looking forward 15, 20 years, do you have much confidence there's going to be many bank branches in some of our towns?
I have extreme confidence, Liam. One of the things I've talked about for the last probably 6 months or so is, as we keep talking about this renewable energy zone, and after the announcement that the size of this res will double, then the economic activity in Wellington will transform Wellington. At the moment, it's a beautiful small town, maybe needs a bit more economic activity. But after the res and the economic injection from that and the long-term aspects of that, which we're working on very hard to make sure there are some long-term aspects left behind, then I think it will transform Wellington. It will be a thriving economic buzz town as well as being a beautiful small town.
Just briefly as well, you've been taking part in the Dubbo Stampede on the weekend, not going just, at a token run. You really went for it.
I did do the half marathon, and I was actually quite happy. I had a target for myself, Liam, of 1 hour 40. I thought maybe I could just squeeze under 1 hour 40. I did it last year in 1 hour 44. And I thought maybe I could squeeze under, and squeeze I did. 1 hour 39 and 59 seconds was my official time. One of my daughters looked at the time, who wasn't there. I had one of my kids competing there, but one of my daughters looked at it and she said, "Are you sure you didn't just sit around and engineer that and wait till the last minute?" I said, no, I was going flat out. So, but it is a great event. 1,500 people or more were there at the event on Sunday. There were certainly some people, I saw some Bathurst T-shirts around, lots of orange runners there as well. It brings people from around the region to Dubbo. Of course, part of the entry, and there are a number of events. There's a 5.3 kilometre run, a 10 kilometre run, a half marathon and a full marathon. But all of those events get you free entry into the zoo as well. So a lot of people do it as a family event. There were probably 800 or more in the 5.3 kilometre event. And you can imagine, you come along with the family, you do a bit of a walk or run over 5.3 Ks, and then you're there at the zoo for the rest of the day. So I saw a lot of people that had finished their run and they were getting changed and off they were going for a walk or a stroll around the zoo as well. So it's a really popular event. Pre-COVID, it used to get over 3,000 people there. COVID obviously knocked it around. It couldn't be run for a couple of years for obvious reasons. But now, back up to 1,500, so it's building back up. And I'm sure once you start coming out, Lamb, and competing and bringing a lot of people with you, then I'm sure we'll get back up to that 3,000 pretty soon.
It might be a bit outside my range, unfortunately, but we'll see how we go, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Always my pleasure, Lamb. Thanks very much.
That is the Mayor of Dubbo, Matthew Dickinson, here on 2BS this morning.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickinson from Dubbo Regional Council.